What if an entire village could be cursed, just because of a forgotten promise? Well, we're about to dive into a story from a man named Rakesh Bagchi, who swears every single word of this is true. And it all goes back to a terrifying event from his childhood in the small Indian village of Panchbadi. Right off the bat, with an oath like that, Rakesh isn't just telling us some spooky story, he's giving testimony. He's asking us to believe in something that didn't just change his life, it changed the fate of everyone he knew. So our story kicks off the way a lot of disasters do, with a simple mistake, a forgotten promise made to a very powerful goddess, right after a terrible storm. So here's what happened. During a funeral, a freak storm hits and the ground literally gives way, swallowing the cremation pyre and damaging the small temple nearby. In all the chaos, the villagers just ran. They figured the temple and its idol were lost to the river forever, so they rebuilt somewhere else and tried to move on. And that right there was their first and most dangerous mistake.
Pretty soon after, this quiet dread started creeping into every single house. People would wake up in the morning and find a fine layer of ash coating everything, even inside rooms that were locked tight. Clumps of what looked like burnt human hair would just appear on freshly swept floors. Kids playing outside would suddenly get shoved to the ground by some invisible force. You can just feel the unease settling over the entire village. So as the fear starts turning into outright panic, the villagers do what people have always done. They seek out their wisest elder, the Thakur, hoping he can make sense of the malevolent presence that's taken over their lives.
Now, the Thakur, he's paralyzed and stuck in bed, but he tells them he had this absolutely terrifying dream. He saw a goddess radiating this fiery heat, just standing on top of a funeral pyre, laughing as hot ash rained down and burned his skin. And get this, when he woke up, there was real ash stuck to the bottom of his feet. And this is where we have to understand exactly who Shmashan Kali is. This is not just any deity. She is the form of Kali who rules over cremation grounds, the land of the dead. Forgetting her isn't just disrespectful, it's like disrespecting death itself. And the villagers were about to find out just how all-consuming her anger could be. The Thakur's dream gives them a path forward, but it is terrifying. The lost idol has to be brought back, but it has to be on the darkest night of the month. And, he says, the goddess will only reveal herself to one person, young Rakesh. The entire fate of Panchbadi now rests on the shoulders of a 12-year-old kid. Now you can imagine, Rakesh's father says, absolutely not. No way am I sending my only son on some suicide mission. But in the days that followed, the curse just tightens its grip. Children start dying from this mysterious illness. And then Rakesh's own best friend Kalu gets sick, so sick he can't even speak or open his eyes. At that point, Rakesh knew he had no choice. He had to go. And so, the journey begins. On the new moon night, armed with nothing but a single lantern, Rakesh and his loyal friend Ramu step into this oppressive, total darkness, heading toward the abandoned cremation ground. Almost immediately, the path itself becomes a nightmare. They walk for what feels like miles past this empty field and a giant, menacing banyan tree, only to find themselves, impossibly, right back at the same field again. They were literally walking in circles, trapped by something they couldn't see. Then, the terror turns psychological. The boys start hearing these whispers coming out of the darkness, and it's the voices of their own parents, begging them to turn back, warning them to go no further. And the whispers, they just get more cruel. They start hearing the weak, dying voice of their friend Kalu telling them their whole quest is pointless, that he's already dead. It was a test specifically designed to shatter their courage. Finally, Ramu just can't take it anymore. He breaks the one rule Rakesh had set: don't look back. He turns around and he sees them, these massive, shapeless black shadows with glowing red eyes, towering over them, growing so big they seemed to touch the sky. The sight was so horrifying that Ramu just fainted, leaving Rakesh completely and utterly alone. So imagine this. Rakesh is surrounded by darkness. His friend is unconscious on the ground, and these monstrous shadows are closing in. He is right on the edge of total panic. But then, he remembers the Thakur's last piece of advice. He closes his eyes and starts chanting the mantra he was given, Om Ein Hring Kling Kalikaya Namah. It was a single moment that was about to change absolutely everything. And as he chants, this soft, divine light just appears from behind that giant banyan tree. The time loop is broken. The light guides him off the cursed path, through the woods, and right to the river's edge, where the ruined temple stood, half sunk in the mud, and inside, he found the small idol, glowing with that very same white light.
Rakesh and a revived Ramu walk back into the village just as the sun is coming up, carrying the idol. The change was instantaneous. It was like flipping a switch. The creepy silence was gone, replaced by birds chirping and the sounds of life. The sick children, including Kalu, were awake and perfectly healthy. The curse had lifted with the sunrise.
But as the village is celebrating, they reveal something absolutely shocking. The boys hadn't just been gone for one night. They had been missing for 2 full days. While the entire village was out searching for them, Rakesh and Ramu had been trapped in some kind of time warp on that single cursed path.
So, the village was saved, the goddess was back where she belonged, and life was returning to normal. But one huge, crucial question was still hanging in the air. Why Rakesh?
Seriously, out of every single person in Panchabadi, why was a 12-year-old boy the only one the goddess would show herself to? Well, the answer, as he would find out later, was hidden in the very event that started the whole curse.
And this is the final, stunning piece of the puzzle. Rakesh reveals that the man whose funeral was interrupted by the storm, the body on that pyre that was swept into the river before the final rites were completed, was his biological father.
So it all clicks into place. Rakesh was an orphan, raised by the man he called father, and he never knew the truth. His real father's spirit had been left restless, trapped at that forgotten temple, denied its last rites. The haunting wasn't just the anger of a goddess, it was the plea of a father's soul reaching across the veil to the only one who could bring him peace, his son. Rakesh's story really forces you to wonder, doesn't it? What kind of invisible duties are passed down to us? It makes you think that maybe our deepest connections to our family, our ancestors, and our faith can set us on paths we never, ever could have chosen for ourselves.